Hello and welcome back to Forestedge Kart Club on the 1st of August 2021 for round 6 of the Blue Challenge. The juniors have had their race and now it is time for the seniors to head out on track for 7 minutes plus a lap of action. 26 strong grid for the senior blues today, and that is even with a few notable absences for both illness and issues relating to the current ongoing coronavirus pandemic. But still a very big grid set to take to the track. Not the longest of finals as well, so there should be plenty of action. People trying to gain places left and right. You can see there on the floor a lot of standing water. The rain has stopped, so the track will be drying up over the course of this race. All drivers are going to be out on wet weather tyres though, so it'll be interesting to see how the grip evolves. You can find the grip later on in the race, presuming of course the rain does indeed hold off. You can see in the distance there a car getting recovered from the previous race, so we should be heading out on track momentarily. In the Blue Challenge going into this race, it's David Watts leading the way ahead of Anthony Cleal, with Russell O'Neill and Rich Puddle even on points. Mike Bell breaking up the top 5 ahead of Billy Thomas, with Sarita Schoen, Sylvain Bessier, Sam Dybel and Rob Mortimer rounding out the top 10. Ahead of the two more Welshmen, Ben Joseph and Nigel Vickery. Kevin O'Neill in 13th ahead of David Waldron, and David Good leads the top 15. Plenty of time for some moving and shaking there. You can see 8th to 15th only separated by 17 points at the moment. It's equally competitive in the Masters subclass. It's Anthony Cleal leading the way there ahead of Russell O'Neill and Ben Joseph, with David Waldron, David Good and Rob Mortimer only separated by 3 points. Kevin O'Neill 7th, a single point ahead of Paul Alexander, and Ron Schoen in 9th. Billy Thomas making up the top 10 ahead of Paul Dybel, Robin Stones, Chris Underhill, Phil Shears and Nigel Vickery. In the blue veteran standings, Anthony Cleal leads the way again with a massive 34-point gap ahead of Rob Mortimer and David Waldron. Both a point ahead of David Good, with Paul Alexander 5th ahead of Kevin O'Neill, Ron Schoen, Paul Dybel, Robin Stones and Chris Underhill. In the Blue Legends, it's David Good leading the way from Kevin O'Neill, with Ron Schoen 3rd ahead of Robin Stones, Chris Underhill and Stuart Gray making up the top 6. In the Blue Top Weights, it's Ben Joseph leading the way, 6 points ahead of Rob Mortimer, ahead of Ron Schoen, Paul Dybel, Billy Thomas, Phil Shears and Adrian Helps making up the top 7. In Heat 1 today, it was nice and dry. Rich Puddle would take the win from pole position ahead of Anthony Cleal and Sam Dybel. Ben Joseph in 4th ahead of Sylvain Bessier, Stuart Gray, Robin Stones, the O-Plate Dave Watts taking the fastest lap en route to 8th place ahead of Mike Bell, and number 52, the Cosmic of Steve Groves rounding out the top 10 with a good performance. Look for him in the purple machine in the final. In Heat 2, the rain had come down quite hard and Sam Dybel was more than a match for the conditions, take the win and the fastest lap ahead of David Watts. Stuart Gray in 3rd ahead of Ben Joseph and Anthony Cleal. Rich Puddle in 6th ahead of Robin Stones once again in 7th. A good run from Tom Parker up into 8th ahead of Mike Bell, and Chris Underhill would complete the top 10 in his Tony kart this time around. Then the weather would throw yet another curveball and dry up again for Heat 3. Anthony Cleal are taking the win ahead of Billy Thomas and his new barrel. Sam Dybel in the number 30 rounding out the top 3 ahead of Stuart Gray and Sylvain Bessier. Russell O'Neill in 6th, taking the fastest lap ahead of Ben Joseph, Rich Puddle, Dave Watts and Paul Dybel, the number 77 in the Alonso car. Dybel was very competitive at Lyd in the heavy rain. How will he be in the greasy conditions here? We'll soon find out. But it is in fact Paul Dybel's son Sam Dybel taking up the pole position ahead of Anthony Cleal by a single point. Stuart Gray and Rich Puddle on row 2 ahead of Ben Joseph and David Watts. Sylvain Bessier, Mike Bell, Billy Thomas and Robin Stone make up the top 10 ahead of Paul Dybel, Russell O'Neill and Phil Shears. The Steve Groves, David Good, John Hartshorn and Chris Underhill only separated on tiebreak ahead of Paul Alexander, Sarita Schoen, Alex Fortune, David Waldron, Kevin O'Neill, the top novice Tom Jones, Tom Parker, Ron Schoen and a non-start for Jeff Webster. Now through the cut through we go. Keep an eye on Sam Dybel, the number 30 in the blue. He's going very early. Cleal's gone with him, so too is Gray and most of the front of the grid. But look, there's a huge gap as some people have been caught out there, so very spread out going into the Haynes Loop. But it's Cleo leading on the way in. Stuart Gray trying to muster his way up the inside. He has them into second ahead of Puddle. Puddle now fighting back through Johnny's. Sam Dible's lost a lot of ground. It's Cleo leading down towards Winger's Dip from Puddle and basically everybody else in third there. Look, Sam Dibble hanging it out round the outside. Mike Bell in there. Alex Fortune going wide as well, using the grip. So Rita Shone there looks like side by side with somebody, but now on the way up to the bus stop. Bang! Russell O'Neill into the back bumper of Mike Bell. On the way out and up the way towards midgets, that's Sylvain Vessier and Ben Joseph side by side. And that's Billy Thomas at the inside of the pair of them in midgets. A very, very high vis suit. Billy Thomas looks like he's made the move. Also a couple more moves looking back there. Look like Sarita Shone and David Waldron. But round the final corner to end the first lap, it's Cleo from Puddle, Gray, Watts, Dibble. Thomas just ahead of Joseph. Then Vessier, Bell and O'Neill make up the top 10. Fortune and Alexander side by side. Thomas Jones and David Waldron likewise down towards the rear of the field. But through the Haynes loop once again. Looks like Alexander up the inside. Sure enough, he's made the move stick. His next target, number 90 of John Hartshorn. Through Johnny's, and they're all bunching to the left. Oh, and that's why Steve Groves backwards off at Johnny's. That's bunched the whole group up, and that's Hartshorn in the middle. Alexander on the left. Fortune on the right going for the switchback. Sarita Shone in there as well. So too David Good. Now up towards midgets for the first time. It's Cleo, Puddle and Gray starting to break away from Watts. Then it's Dibble and Joseph side by side. Looking back down the hill now. Thomas Jones there looking at the inside of John Hartshorn. Tom Parker and Ron Shone side by side. And off goes Sarita Shone and Chris Underhill. Both looking like they dropped the back end going up through midgets. But it's all to play for already in these early stages. Looks like the top 10 starting to break away as Russell O'Neill now in 10th place looking for a move on Mike Bell going through the Haynes loop. But the Octane hanging on round the outside and things stay status quo. They're chasing down Vessier and it looks like the top 7 are starting to break away even. Billy Thomas in the very high Vi rain suit, you can see getting smaller in the distance. Looking back down the order, that's Hartshorn and Jones, Parker and Waldron. There's Sarita Shone and Chris Underhill. They've both got back going and have started to catch back up again. Oh, and Shone's lost it in Winger's Dip. And she's off into the grass and there's no driving out of that. There's going to be no grip there at all. So she's going to have to pull the cart back towards harder ground. Kevin O'Neill there going through. He seems to be struggling in these conditions as well. And that's side by side Sam Dibble and Dave Watts into the final bend. And Sam Dibble makes the move back into 5th. But it's getting close for the lead as well. You can see Puddle all over the back of Cleo, Gray in there as well. And they're all coming up to Steve Groves. And something's just dropped off the back of Stuart Gray's cart there. Hopefully everybody misses it. Now down towards Winger's Dip, side by side, Puddle and Cleo. Oh, and Groves has spun! Cleo's had a side-on impact with him, so hopefully that hasn't done any damage for anyone. And there's Stuart Gray's chain guard being hit off the road, looked like by David Good. Now back to the battle for 9th. There's Bell and O'Neill through the chicane. Now up towards the straight through towards midgets. Russell O'Neill looking to up the inside, and he's going to make the move up the inside of Bell, but Bell's going to switch back behind. Now they're going to go side by side on the run down towards Climate. Through Climate they go, still side by side as we jump on board once again with Russell O'Neill in Tollies up the inside. But Bell's going to hang on around the outside, so those two still battling hard over 9th and 10th. Meanwhile, looking back to 11th, it's Paul Dibble ahead of Robin Stoddart-Stones. Phil Shears in there, Paul Alexander and Alex Fortune, they're always up for a fight. Looks like down to about 21st places in this one big line. So Robin Stoddart-Stones now attacking Paul Dibble. You can see there are many different makes of carts in there, many different drivers as well. Now through Winger's Dip and up through Anson's, that Stoddart-Stones has made the move on Dibble. So Stoddart-Stones up into 11th ahead of Dibble. Paul Alexander looking for a move on someone as well, as now up towards midgets. Bell and O'Neill starting to lose touch with Vessier, who's starting to lose touch with Billy Thomas. That's Paul Alexander looking at Phil Shears up into midgets. Alexander's going to get up the inside, and Alex Fortune, what a line in the wet. He's going to run very wide, he's going to make the move on Shears, and now he's going to attack Alexander already. And that's Stuart Gray with a hand up. Stuart Gray's pulling in. Must be a black and orange flag for a missing chain guard, so the red speed in the pits and the Flying Scotsman is out of this race. That's going to really shake the order up because Gray was in that lead battle. There's Bell and O'Neill. Their battle now up for 8th place. Bell going to get the run up through Anson's on the run up to the bus stop once again. That outside line really proving dividend. As now here's the battle for 11th. Alexander and Fortune side by side once again. As they're going to run up towards the bus stop. There's Bell and O'Neill. There's Stoddart Stones breaking away and catching up to Steve Groves. Then it's Dybel in the Alonso. The Mad Croc of Alexander. The Ricardo Kart of Fortune in there. The Gillard of Shears. The Mac of Good. Tony Kart in there of Tom Parker as well. John Hartshorn in there as well. Same with Tom Jones, yet another Gillard. As they're going to come around the final turn. Alexander looking left and right. Fortune in there as well. Parker looking at the back of Hartshorn. And up the inside there, that's Paul Alexander on Paul Dybel. Now Alex Fortune trying to hang on around the outside. And they've locked bumpers. They're going to run wide through Johnny's. That's going to give Phil Shears a chance. David Good in there as well. And Steve Groves off again. Groves really struggling in Johnny's in these conditions. But down towards Anson's, it's Alexander and Fortune. And that's Dybel hitting the curb. That's going to give David Good a good run. Tom Parker in there with the green helmet. He's going to go round the outside of Good into the bus stop. Good move from Parker. But all to play for in this midfield pack. Now Thomas Jones looking for the inside against John Hartshorn up through midgets. But back to the battle for second. It's Cleel versus Dybel. Joseph Watson Thomas all in there as well as they're all finding their way through past Kevin O'Neill. Now looking back to the battle for 11th. Alexander and Fortune scampering away. That's Tom Parker looking to the inside but up over the curb at Parsons. Paul Dybel's going to hang on to that position for now. It's all changing. As the leaders about to start the final lap. You can see a lot of karts getting sideways on the greasy line. You can see it very definitively from this angle. Now we look back towards Tolly's. There's Sarita Schoen. But right behind her is the race leader, Rich Puddle, coming around to take the last lap board. Then it's Cleel, Dybel, Joseph, Watson, Thomas, all in tight behind. Now the race leader putting a lap on Sarita Schoen, but Sam Dybel up the inside over the curb. Anthony Cleel's going to hang on around the outside though, as they're going to go down towards Johnny's. Cleel holds on once again. Dave Watts pressuring being pressured by Billy Thomas, but trying to put pressure on Ben Joseph, who's had a mega run through Johnny's. Really closed the gap on Sam Dybel even. There's Bell and O'Neill, their battle still ongoing. There's Paul Alexander up the inside of Robin Stoddart Stones, that's for 10th place. Good move from Alexander, he's made the grind up and made the move. Then it's Fortune, Shears, Parker, Dybel, Good, Jones and Hartshorn, and that's Waldron going around. David Waldron getting bitten, and that is Ron Schoen avoiding action. They're going to get back up underway and around the final turn. There's Rich Puddle to take the race win, but who's going to be second? Anthony Cleel just ahead of Sam Dybel. Ben Joseph's going to set the new fastest lap of the race en route to 4th ahead of Watts, Thomas, Vessier, and O'Neill's going to pass Bell on the last lap. Great action going on up at the front, but the mid-pack is still racing. So who's going to come out on top there? It looks like it's going to be Alexander, and indeed it is. Ahead of Stoddart Stones, Fortune, Shears, Parker. Then it's Dybel, Good, Jones, Hartshorn. Ron Schoen's going to finish ahead of David Waldron. And Chris Underhill's going to round out our finishers. But what an exciting race. The conditions are really playing a part. But the excitement not over. Post-race scrutineering, Rich Puddle was disqualified for a technical infringement, which would hand the win to Anthony Cleel by 0.05 of a second ahead of Sam Dybel. Ben Joseph third ahead of Dave Watts, Billy Thomas, Sylvain Vessier, Russell O'Neill, Mike Bell, Paul Alexander and Robin Stoddart Stones, with Alex Fortune, Phil Shears, Tom Parker, Paul Dybel, David Good, the novice Thomas Jones in 16th ahead of John Hartshorn, Ron Schoen, David Waldron, Chris Underhill, Sarita Schoen, Kevin O'Neill, Steve Groves, Stuart Gray and Jeff Webster. And that has made big differences in the blue challenges. Anthony Cleel jumped up into the lead by a sole point ahead of David Watts. Mike Bell moves up to 3rd ahead of Russell O'Neill. Ben Joseph jumps from 11th to 5th ahead of Sylvain Vessier. Then it's Sam Dybel, Sarita Schoen, Rob Mortimer taking his drop and moving up into 9th ahead of David Good. Then it's Paul Alexander, David Waldron, Kevin O'Neill, Billy Thomas and Ron Schoen running at the top 15. In the Blue Masters is Anthony Cleal heading the way ahead of Russell O'Neill and Ben Joseph. David Good moving up to 4th ahead of Rob Mortimer. It's David Waldron, Paul Alexander, Kevin O'Neill, Ron Schoen and Billy Thomas making up the top 10. Paul Dybel, Robin Starkstones, Phil Shears, Chris Underhill and Stuart Gray going to round out the top 15 in the Masters category. In the Blue Veterans standings, it's going to be a similar story with Anthony Cleal winning the day ahead of David Good. Rob Mortimer is going to be in 3rd, just a sole point ahead of Paul Alexander. David Waldron to round out the top 5 ahead of Kevin O'Neill, Ron Schoen, Paul Dybel, Robin Starkstones and Phil Shears. And in the Blue Legends subclass, it's going to be a extension of the championship lead by David Good ahead of Kevin O'Neill, Ron Schoen. The winner on the day, Robin Starkstones, is going to move up into 4th ahead of Chris Underhill and Stuart Gray. They're going to be ahead of Adrian Helps and John Hartshorn. And the last of the blue subclasses is going to be the top weights. Another win on the day for Ben Joseph to extend his lead ahead of Rob Mortimer, with Ron Schoen, Billy Thomas and Paul Dybel making up the top 5 ahead of Phil Shears, Adrian Helps and Mike Watts rounding out the top 8. In the Tabor Customer Prize Fund, it's going to be Russell O'Neill leading and extending his gap at the top of the table ahead of Anthony Cleal, with Sarita Schoen, Mike Bell and David Good rounding out the prize bracket. And the top junior blue, Jamie Dart, down in even 20th. There will be plenty of time to watch that championship develop over the course of the season. And that's going to be it for all the action today from Forestedge Kart Club. We will see you again in a few weeks from Mansell Raceway in the next round of the Blue Challenge. Goodbye.